Rightio.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. Anthony here from Gateway Packaging, and this morning, as promised, we are going live with Matt Shutkowski from The Travelling Builder. Matt, how's things, mate?
Good, buddy.
Excellent.
Well?
We are doing well. We are doing very well. Very excited to be chatting with you this morning. And we do have a limited amount of time, but for anybody watching, if you do have any questions for Matt, anything about the construction and building industry, anything about what we're talking about, please drop it in the comments below. We'd love to answer those questions. And if you like the content or you think somebody might be able to get some value from it, please share this as well with your networks. That would be absolutely awesome. All right, mate. So let's start off with a bit of an introduction about yourself and maybe where you're based. We can see you in a beautiful part of the world outdoors at the moment. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, mate. So I started out as a chippy, as a carpenter, and slowly had my own company and lost that probably about as quickly as I started it. Learned a few lessons. Probably that would be the best lesson in business I've ever had, I think, more than anything. And then from there, I've just worked my way up to being a site manager on commercial towers and stuff like that. And as fast as I got there, I decided it was time to get out of it.
Okay.
That just had enough. It was the big hours. Anyone in construction knows it's 6 days a week is the normal now. And as a site manager, you're first in on site, last to leave. And it just got to a point where I'd had enough. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
And then from there, I took a year and a half off just to travel, just find out what I want to do. Tried a few different ventures along the way, and I just really enjoyed talking, for lack of a better word, rubbish with builders at a pub, just sharing our stories, and that's how The Travelling Builder sort of started.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. Before we dive into The Travelling Builder a bit more and let everybody know what it's about, we connected, quite a few months back now. It was when you were passing through our part of the world in Shepparton, Victoria, and you were doing your thing with The Travelling Builder and interviewing one of the local custom home builders here in town. And I came across you through his content, found out about what you were doing. We're sort of working in a similar space. It's pretty awesome. So let's dive into The Travelling Builder and what is it? What do you do with that?
Yep. So Travelling Builder is just me travelling around, just meeting all the different people in the industry, whether they're a big builder, small tradesman who just works for a team of guys, just sharing their stories, what they're up to, any cool projects that they're working on. And with no intention of teaching anybody anything about building, it's got nothing to do with trying to teach a mum and dad how to build a house or not trying to educate other builders on business or anything. It's just sharing our stories, kind of bringing back a little bit of that pride that we kind of gets pushed to the side just with the time pressures and constraints and budgets, just giving us an opportunity to just acknowledge what we've done without any sort of pressures behind it, just standing back and just having a look and going, wow, I built that.
Yeah, perfect. Love that, mate. And your tagline is Australia's leading construction industry media source. And that's really cool too, and ties in well with what we do here at Gateway. Obviously, we're a packaging supply company. We supply builders, trades, scaffolding companies, construction industry companies. So lots of synergies between us and what you're doing. And obviously, me being a digital marketer, I love the fact that you're playing in that media space, telling your story, helping other people and other businesses tell their story. So that's pretty cool. Mate, let's talk a little bit about the construction industry, I suppose, and where you see it sitting at the moment, especially in Australia. What's the industry like at the moment? Is it booming? Is it dropping? Are you happy with what's happening within the industry? Wrap a bit of context around it for us.
Yeah, so it's definitely booming at this stage. We were supposed to hit a recession, but that seems to be getting put on hold year on year for the last few years.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
It's a good thing. But it's also, we're running into a problem where we're running out of tradesmen. My biggest concern about the industry is in my short, so I'm 35, I've been in the industry now for 15 years. And in that 15 years, it's been a very noticeable decline in the quality of tradesmen coming through. And it's going to be, it's interesting with the older guys that I did a lot of my site management through and with, they were telling me about how much it's dropped from when they were tradesmen as well. And it's kind of worrying times because we're now seeing in the industry a lot of companies are niching right down into very specific subsections of their trades. And the guys that they employ as apprentices and stuff are very much only learning that little portion of the trade. They don't get the whole spectrum. They're not learning everything from A to Z within their trade. So I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to really start seeing the impacts of that and how what we now consider a tradesman is no longer going to be a trade, it's going to be sub-trades. Like, to give a classic example of the plumber, we all know what the plumber is. He does everything to do with water, but then we've also heard the term drainer as well, plumber and drainer, and gas fitter. So it's broken down into 3 trades where you don't have to be a plumber to do all the underground drainage on a house or a building. You can have what's called a drainage license. And then a gas fitter, you have to have a plumber's license to be a gas fitter. So it's kind of like we're starting to see the breakdown of that. And then if you have a look at plasterers, they're broken down into 5 separate categories. So you've got the guys that do the sheeting of the gyprock, and then you've got the guys that do the setting, and then you have another group of guys that do the sanding, and then another group of guys that do the cornice, and then you have someone else who comes back and touches it all up. And that's very typical of every plastering company. They'll have certain guys that only do certain parts, and it's a worrying time because we're seeing the beginnings of things changing. Like, I don't want to say it's a bad thing. It's just what we're so familiar with is now really shifting.
Yeah,
and then we're going to see off the back of that, and we're seeing it already. A lot of manufactured and precast and factory-built items for buildings coming out. Like, there's a company in Melbourne, they're really big, called Hickory, where they prefabricate in a warehouse all the bathrooms for towers, and they get lifted up into position and wheeled into place, and then everything gets built around them. They're fully 100% finished. Precast concrete on towers now, like concrete walls and columns and everything are now, quite a lot of them are precast. So if you build over 13 floors, it's cheaper to precast off site and then crane it into place than it is to actually pour in situ. So we're starting to see a big shift in how things are built. And that's, I don't think as a whole, the industry's realised what's happening, and we've got no one else to blame. We're sort of ourselves trying to always forever chasing that next dollar and that next dollar, and we've lost what it is to be a tradesman. Like, if you go to North America and places like that, a tradesman in Europe, they do their time and then they've got to go away and spend a year or 2 traveling, or they don't get signed off as a tradesman until they've done this whole spectrum of stuff, and then they get given their certificate as a tradesman. So it's interesting how we operate here in Australia.
Yeah, so it is very much becoming, very niche and sort of sectioned off rather than having a wide range of skills. It's more, a single skill that the trades. Do you think businesses in the industry, business owners, company owners are keeping up with that trend? Or do you think how's it all going to play out? Is it going to
I would say business is the one driving it more than anything, because you can be much more profitable and effective if you just do one thing and you do it really well. So suddenly you can be cheaper but still make more money than the next guy that does everything, because you've got all the equipment to do that one task. You've developed your systems to do that one task really effectively. And it's not a bad thing. It's just I don't think we're like, business owners are really smart in terms of maximizing their profits, and it's kind of like, it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's great, and on the other hand, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, sure. What let's obviously with the traveling builder, let's talk a bit about the whole traveling aspect and where you've been. So you're making your way around Australia, or are you sticking to certain towns or cities? Tell us a bit about your plans as far as travel goes.
Yep. So it all started. I was in Europe and Nepal, was traveling through there, taking bunches of photos of buildings and whatever else, and then met a whole stack of people. And then it wasn't until I got back to Brisbane early last year that I started writing and really started taking an interest in meeting the different people from different areas. And then from there, so I went from Brisbane to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne, and from Melbourne I went up to Shepparton, met a few people along the way. End of this week, I'm in New Zealand, Auckland, meeting a owner of a crane company over there, spending a day with them, just seeing whatever they do. I have no idea yet. And the aim is just to keep traveling around and just different cities at different times. Still based in Brisbane, but then travel out from there for this year and go to different cities. The aim is to go somewhere new every month and just meet some different people there and interview them and throw it on the traveling builder.
Perfect. And that was sort of leading into my next question there is, like, what's your process when reaching out to businesses that you want to connect with? What are your goals? What are you trying to get? Are you trying to get an interview with them? Are you trying to find out how you can help them on the media side? Like, what's sort of your goals with the traveling builder?
My aim is just to share their story, is literally just to talk to them about what they're up to, what they've achieved, what they're accomplishing. And that's pretty much it. Just letting people know, it's kind of like letting everyone meet the people in the industry. We don't really get the opportunity to meet each other. And that's kind of what my aim is, to make that opportunity happen. And of course it leads on to marketing and advertising and exposure for companies and all the rest of it. And that's the business side of it for myself. Like, that's the intention, is that we still share everyone's story, and it's sort of indirect marketing for what people are up to.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, mate. With the types of content that you create, so obviously you're doing like written articles and blogs for the website. Like, what types of other content are you creating?
It's predominantly just the video interviews, and I write articles about companies and what they're up to, and everything's from perspective of inside the industry. Like, I don't write from, like, if you read a lot of construction news articles, it's written from people that have no experience, and my aim is to make it relevant to all of us in the industry, because from my experience, a lot of people in the industry don't read a lot of media, like construction related media stuff, because there's no reality within what it is to run a construction site or to own a business that's in the construction industry. It's very, what people see from the outside to how it is very chalk and cheese.
Okay.
And so that's the intention, is to keep everything relevant to people within the industry, because it's one thing for someone like, there's an article written a while ago for The Economist newspaper, and they were talking about the state of the industry, but it was very much, it didn't address the issues of, like, it really took out the human side of the industry and was just pointing the finger at inefficiencies and poor productivity and all of this stuff, but it didn't ever address the guys on the ground or the tradesmen that are on contract by contract, or where the real dollar lies. They never spoke about it. It was just this big blanket view of the whole industry, and it was hard to stomach. You get halfway through it and you're like, oh, really? You're gonna bang on about this?
Yeah.
So, and that's the intention with everything we write, and keep it positive too, because every newspaper wants to write something negative about anything, and so the whole intention here is to keep it all in a good light, make it a little bit fun if we can. I know my humour can be quite dry and horrible sometimes, so come across a bad joke, oh, sorry.
There's plenty of us that like some dry humour, mate. There's no worries about that. No, that's excellent, and I love that idea of obviously, being an expert in that space and telling the story from within the industry rather than being somebody on the outside trying to tell that story. And obviously, that's going to give conflicted views, and it's not going to be as authentic and factual as it could be. So, love what you're doing, mate. If there are any businesses that are watching and that are interested, how do they go about connecting with you and talking to you and potentially being featured on the Travelling Builder?
Easiest way is just to email me. So if you go to the website, thetravelingbuilder.com, now do spell it with 2 L's, not one. So if you spell it with 1 L, you'll get to chatting to some dude in America building hot rods. So it's 2 different fields. Also Instagram, Facebook. Basically, if you Google the Travelling Builder, I'll pop up. Send me a contact, email, whatever form, and be in touch. Just bear in mind, if you don't have something if you don't have anything that's positive, it's very hard to keep that context that I'm trying to keep alive. But in saying that, I'll find a story and something interesting in whatever anyone's got going on, just simply because I love chatting with people and finding out what they're up to.
Excellent. Absolutely love it, mate. Just want to thank you very much for your time, mate. It was awesome to have a chat, learn a bit more about you and what you're up to. And again, it was really exciting to connect with you because obviously being a B2B business here at Gateway Packaging, supplying the building and trade industry, and having somebody like yourself in that media space that's out there, that's connecting with other business owners, and that's really telling that story. It was pretty awesome to connect, mate. So appreciate your time today.
No worries. Thank you. It's been great. My pleasure.
Awesome, mate. I know you've got to rush off to a meeting. So, guys, if you are watching this, please do drop any comments in below. If you've got any questions for Matt, he'll be sure to answer them later on down the track, even if we're not live anymore. So, Matt, enjoy the rest of your day, mate, and thanks for being with us.
No worries. Thanks. See ya.